Howdy again everyone. Now, one thing the Viltrox lens company could never be accused of is sitting on their laurels. Every year, new and interesting lenses fly out of their factory doors, and today we see what is probably their most ambitious offering to date, their AF 135mm f1.8. As an autofocus full-frame lens, this kind of optic is the dream of most portrait photographers and even event photographers, a specialist telephoto optic able to give you quite wildly out-of-focus backgrounds in your images, which are nicely compressed. It's a dream to use a lens like this, although it's certainly a tighter image than an 85mm portrait optic. It's currently just for Sony E-mount cameras, and when it comes out, the lens's price will be £829 here in the UK, $899 or 999 euro. I'd like to thank Viltrox for sending me one of these lenses for testing, although as usual, this is a totally independent review. The lens itself is big, as you can see, and despite being mostly made of plastic, it is heavy at 1.2 kilos or 2 3/4 pounds. Well, understandable considering the very large glass elements inside. One criticism about the build quality I have is that, as you upturn the lens, you can hear and feel glass elements bumping around inside, something which I absolutely hate to feel. It doesn't inspire me with confidence. Now, I know that this is a phenomenon to be found on some other camera lenses, even Sony's own 135mm f1.8, and the lens is absolutely fine, I just really don't like that bumping. Anyway, the metallic lens mount is weather sealed and features a USB-C port for firmware updates. Then we get the screen. Both Viltrox and occasionally Nikon like to feature these little OLED screens. They're far more ornament than use, but they do at least look cool, and they do give you some nice information, and it breaks up the slight ugliness of the rest of the lens. This lens has Bluetooth, and you can update its firmware, adjust settings, and even reprogram that screen by connecting it to your phone through the Viltrox app. You can even make the screen display your own custom images on startup. On my own phone, it didn't connect properly, but that's probably because it's about 7 years old now and barely works anymore. With a more recent Android or iPhone, you should be fine. At the rear we find focus limiter and auto manual focus switches. Between them comes an aperture ring, which is interesting. It's made of plastic, and a small switch on the side lets you change between turning the ring smoothly or with clicks. That's handy. Those clicks happen at every 1/9 of an f-stop though, which is quite strange. I didn't like that. To get it into automatic or camera controlled mode, simply turn the ring all the way clockwise. Mixed feelings about that aperture ring. Then come a couple of focus limiter switches before a rubberized manual focus ring, which turns lovely and smoothly, and as you can see here, it works very responsively with the focus motor. You can also see some rather heavy focus breathing here, with the image zooming in as you focus more closely to your subject. The lens's autofocus motor works silently and accurately, but in single-shot autofocus mode, as you can see here, on my A7R III it wasn't all that confident, struggling to quickly focus, and that was the case even more in dark conditions. However, when I switched over to continuous autofocus mode, it worked far better, quite quickly actually. It was pretty much always accurate too. Viltrox tell me that this autofocus performance was a mild compatibility issue with my Sony A7R III camera, which admittedly is a bit of an older one. Apparently the autofocus should work perfectly on a newer Sony camera, and firmware updates are coming to help out. The lens has an 82mm filter thread size, and it does not feature image stabilization. Overall, the lens's build quality was fine here. I liked the lens's OLED screen, even if it's a bit of a gimmick. Well, anyway, let's look at image quality. I'll start by testing it on a Sony A7R III camera with its full-frame 42MP sensor. In-camera corrections were turned on for this test. At f1.8 in the middle of the image, we get excellent sharpness and contrast right away. That excellent sharpness continues across the whole image frame, although when we look right into the edges we see a little less contrast. There's just a touch of ghosting here on contrasting edges, just a touch. It's the same at f2 and even f2.8, but at f4 there is a tiny improvement, and at f5.6 image quality is razor sharp from corner to corner. The lens stays this sharp down to f11, although f16 of course sees a little softening emerging from diffraction. still an excellent performance there on full frame. So let's see how it performs on an APS-C camera now with a smaller 24 megapixel sensor. Good news here, the lens still sees excellent sharpness and contrast in the middle of the image at f1.8, and over in the corners, well, it's the same situation as full frame. Brilliant image quality, but with just the tiniest little touch of ghosting on contrasting edges, just a tiny bit. f2.8 looks about the same, but this time it's at f4 that we get razor sharpness from corner to corner. Again, the lens stays this sharp down to about f11, although f16 sees a little softening emerging from diffraction. Again though, a brilliant performance. Let's go back to full frame, turn off in-camera corrections and look at distortion and vignetting. At f1.8 we see barely any distortion at all, although vignetting is noticeable at f1.8. Stop down to f2.8 and it's gone, so that's a very good showing. Next, close-up image quality, and with a minimum focus distance of 70 centimeters, the lens offers you very good magnification here. At f1.8, close-up image quality is a bit hazy. Stop down to f2.8 though, and it gets perfect again. And now, work against bright light. The lens gets a very clean bill of health here, almost no flaring or glaring is visible here at all. And now, bokeh. The quality of this lens's autofocus backgrounds is pretty vital, and the good news here is that they look fantastically smooth in every situation I could throw at it. Specular highlights look smooth too, without any outlining, and they only display an average cat's eye shape in image corners, so 10 out of 10 here, really. And finally, related to bokeh comes longitudinal chromatic aberration. The force is strong on this one, unfortunately at f1.8, as you can see. There's a good improvement at f2.8 though, and at f4 it's basically gone. Overall, well, apart from a few little quirks with its build quality, the Viltrox 135mm f1.8 is a truly excellent portrait lens. Fantastic sharpness, excellent contrast and extremely smooth bokeh. Its price is reasonable too. It competes with a well-known equivalent lens by Korean manufacturer Samyang. The Samyang lens is absolutely excellent and can be found for about $100 less. The Samyang lens is a tiny bit sharper than the Viltrox in my tests, especially when shooting close up at f1.8, and it has the same autofocus speed. The Viltrox lens though has more build features with its aperture ring and nifty little screen, and I also felt that the quality of its autofocus backgrounds was a little softer in transitional zones, so you do get a little extra value there. The Viltrox lens also suffers from less flaring than the Samyang, so it will give a little extra contrast. So really, it's swings and roundabouts here. Have fun making up your mind, and in the meantime, this Viltrox lens still comes highly recommended. God, you know, for years back in the age of digital SLRs, I dreamed of getting an 135mm f1.8, but the only one commercially available was a Zeiss one on Sony's old A-mount digital SLR cameras for $1,300. Now there's a competitive market for them. They are simply amazing lenses for portrait work. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the playlists on my channel where all these reviews have been carefully archived, and be sure to check out my Patreon page in the description below if you fancy supporting my work and getting some exclusive bonus content at the same time. Ciao for now, everyone.